Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming this afternoon. For those of you that are still interested in these subjects, of course, that we still we have this growing awareness for all these needs. And I'd like to thank the organizers because everything is working smoothly. And some of us here understand, are quite familiar with what it takes to organize one of the events. I'm here on behalf of Tecnodiscap. This is a research body from the Zaragoza University. We work with the Technological University of Zaragoza, and our main target goal is to develop and adapt technologies for people with disabilities, people that could be in a special education course or special workshops, or even elderly. This experience I want to share with you was done in a Romera experience with the elderly. This is a public residence in Zaragoza. People in this residence are elderly. They're not very independent, and we thought it'd be the right place to do this. What we set out to do with this experience is to see the benefits that ICTs have for elderly with disabilities, and also to promote, encourage elderly to test these technologies, and also try and understand the benefits and the impact that these technologies have at a personal level and from an economic standpoint. And we found that elderly, I think we all know this, that are always open to learning new things, but technologies is always a bit remote to them. And what we wanted to do was to verify whether indeed, by encouraging them to use technologies, leisure technologies, we could motivate them through the right training, and we could probably introduce these technologies and to have an impact in the health and see overall the impact it would have on the caregivers. So we looked into the person, their abilities to do different activities and to participate in various fields. We looked at resources as well, the activity itself, and the environment. So we know that people have these abilities and certain skills and abilities. As the years goes by, we lose these abilities. But we live in an environment, in this case, in this residence, where a number of things are already covered: health, physical adaptation to, and loneliness. Not as a personal experience, but because they're also with people of the same age, and then also we can develop some activities and have and the need, of course, and we need resources to carry out these activities. Now, with respect to the individual, we looked into see how long they can concentrate in a given activity. Now, concentration, paying attention, is something we assume, or concentration is something we assume, but we can all very easily lose attention or focus or concentration, even if we want to continue or remain focused on one thing. Either in a movie, in a conference, reading the press, and suddenly our mind just flies off somewhere else. Now, this over time, of course, we tend to lose concentration, and also we develop some sort of a spiral. We end up always we always focus on the same things. In the case of the elderly, it's always nobody listens to me, I'm lonely, and so on. So what we want to do is pull them out of that vicious circle and see what other things that could interest them. We also look into the well-being of the person, the current, to what extent they are open to participate in a group when they are offered certain leisure. We also look into their feeding patterns and sleeping patterns. That's important to understand their quality of life. And also their ability, their skill level physically, what they can do, what cannot do, and also assistance needs. People in general, when people are sad or alone, we call for more assistance than when we're entertained or we have something to focus on and concentrate on. So those are things that we evaluated. So inactivity, well, the quality of life of the user, the independence of the user, degree of satisfaction, of perceived satisfaction, to what extent they want, they need social resources. I said again, and then to what extent they're inside the spiral, and how capable are they of conducting basic functions. And also the caregiver wants to know, as you know, in residences, we have individuals that are either married or widows, and they don't only have the same level of dependence. Maybe in a given couple, one may have more or less crippled, and the partner would be the caregiver. There's always one that's a caregiver. Another thing that we value also is the inactivity. Another thing we looked into is the activity, and basically the cost side as well, the cost of providing that additional support to these people. Can the environment enable or make can enable certain activities or make it more difficult? These are, obviously, if you're in a wheelchair, then clearly that's more difficult for you. So again, the environment is not just the physical; it's also the people around us. So if someone is surrounded by other people that constantly reminding them or telling them, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't, and so on, that doesn't help. So we're looking into. Our study looked into that aspect as well, whether it's done in a residence or in a household, whether it's rural or urban. Obviously, in a rural environment, we have different conditions that if we're looking at the urban conditions, whether the person is living alone or with a partner, if it's a partner, or living with the children. And also, we know there's quite a large platform of support for the elderly. So the resources, we look into the resource, we saw what is needed, what we need it for, and the interface. The interface would be, say, the computer, the screen, and for example, our colleague up here. And all the interfaces that we're using are not always accessible. In the case of our elderly, we find that some of the elderly have they're hard of hearing, they can be blind, and also physical impediments. So we look into those elements as well in the course of this project. We did this with 6 people. These were volunteers. The age range was 64 to 84, and different scenarios. There is a high degree of dependence, which is one of the requirements to join this residence, but that degree of residence had to be compatible with the use of the Wii, which is the interface that we decided to use. I'm sure we all know the Wii. In fact, some of you may have used it. The Wii, as you know, has a wireless remote control unit. It's sensitive to movement, and it's quite easy to use and intuitive, because depending on the movement you carry out, then that's the one that little doll on the screen performs. There's one game, Wii Sport, and it's bowling. We chose bowling. Why? Well, because in bowling, it is the user that lays the pace. So if you have, there's tennis and ping pong, other sports where there's 2 people involved, and there's different pace there. Obviously, the elderly can't react very quickly in the case of tennis, so it needed to be the elderly that could set the pace of the activity. Obviously, your speed of reaction for bowling wasn't significant. It's something we need to bear in mind for this population. You can play